We have one more piece after this, but we wanted to talk about what you just saw. And if anybody has any questions, we can answer them. I'll start. I don't have a question. I don't have any answers either. I just have maybe stuff to say. So, again, I'm Sarah Yvonne, and this is a collective effort on all of us here. The first part that you saw is called Fallow, the first two pieces. And they represent the times in our lives that are pretty barren, pretty broken, pretty dead, kind of mundane. The second portion, after you saw death come in, second portion is called fallow. The death part seems to, flourish. Did I say fallow out loud? I'm supposed to keep all of this. There's so many things. Oh, I have that upside down. Okay, so the second, we're back. Second part is called flourish. It's when the times in our lives are so dead and so barren that we hit a place of real darkness that seems dead, and only that can bring a real flourishful, exciting, and celebratory season in our life. Some really rich stuff can come from our seasons of death and burning. But it doesn't last. It's not sustainable. So naturally, life brings this organic balance of fallow and flourish together in what is the beautiful, wild life that we all hold. So this is quite a mirror, this meditation, of what you'll see in that exhibit, but also just the landscape of our lives. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Can you speak to the motivation behind the use of props?
Chris, do you want to talk about that? Okay.
Hi. I'm emerging from the audience. Hi, I'm Chris, and Sarah is a good friend of mine, and I'm an artist that works in fiber arts and installation. And all the fabric and the different props that you see, I kind of helped come up with some grand ideas and things that we're going to expand upon later, but everything was dyed naturally from things of the earth. So the fabric that goes around the outside of the space where they were dancing is all rust-dyed fabric that was made in abandoned spaces and factories and industrial sites around Chattanooga. So it kind of speaks to the way things decay, but also can create a lot of real beauty. And then the fabric that they brought in, the items that you saw them playing with is clay, crystallized salt, charcoal, wood that had been kind of changed into an art form, an art material, and then even the fabric in the center was dyed with things like cabbage and beets and turmeric. And so everything they're using was meant to speak back to the earth and kind of talk about the feelings that they were having in the incorporation of the piece itself.
So that happened this morning when we learned that we couldn't get the space too dirty. So we were like, we can get dirty outside. So it's just the compromise. But it's amazing, like a happy accident, right? So I love being out there and like actually connected to nature out there, and then the whole divide, and so like I made the connection with death, opened the door for her. So it was just really cool to actually have that barrier between the life and then the other stuff that was going on out there. We all have our dark and our light. So that was that.
I always find it interesting doing these things, these installations where we have ample amounts of time. Typically, we have like 5 minutes, 10-minute slots, 15-minute slots, but to be given enough time to really explore the elements and to really get wild in it and see what we can and can't do. And I just feel like that's really exciting, and I'm really grateful to be here at the Hunter, and that allows us to do that. So thank you. Yeah.
I was wondering, what does the sort of ceremony have to do with the piece? It felt very sort of ceremonial, like the spreading of the salt, kind of the pouring upon yourself, sort of like almost like purification or something. What am I misreading? Is there something to that? How does that speak to the piece?
Well, it's all up to interpretation. I was actually, when we were creating this, I was actually listening to a lot of Sinead O'Connor, who was it, and like her vocals about, her lyrics about creating a nest of salt came up. She said, I'll take the blame, make me a nest of salt. So it is, it's like a purification. I felt like the whole thing was a meditation, a prayer. A lot of the symbolism of the spiral and the altar creating just a more connection to nature. But again, I feel like every single time we did this, it was a little different, and I got another read from the whole thing. So I think that's an individual thing, too. Does anybody want to speak to that? All the things. All right.
I feel like, I love all these. Okay, so I think for me at least, like, it's starting with the salt was kind of a representation of, like, the purity of the earth. I think, like, I believe that the earth began very pure, and then time happens, and there's all sorts of things that happen on this earth. So I feel like for me, starting the piece was just a very, like, symbolic of, like, the laying the groundwork, the beginning of all things, like, the purity of the earth, like, setting the stage for, like, what's to come. So that's, for me, what the salt meant.
So I've been working with salt a lot symbolically in my work, and a big part of it is the duality between, and this is true of many elements in our world, that the salt was used to decay it makes the rust, right? But we also use salt to preserve. So like we can't live without some things, but too much of it then creates barrenness. So there's always this duality, there's always this idea of balance that is created through all these things. So the rust and the salt together kind of tell a story about that duality.
So if there's not any more questions, maybe we can segue. We have one. Jess.
Could you guys speak to the tactile motif in the movement, if there's any sort of representation in there?
The choreographer of those isn't here and like wasn't explained. So also open to interpretation on my end, on our end and your end. So like she said, every time we do it, some other new things pop up in the brain. So yeah.
So I'm not sure if this is a good response or not, but I feel like with movement, the primary meaning is the movement, and the words come after. The words, the way we discuss it serves as an exegesis of the movement, but the movement is the primary meaning. It has to be, the primary meaning has to be the movement. So the first thing of someone's foot, if Grace's toes are here, doing a thing on the floor, the first meaning is what is the toes on the floor, and the words we add to it are all secondary meanings. If we think about dance as a primary art form, the way we think about music or poems. Yeah, the language of dance is saying what it says, and the way we interpret it is secondary. The same way if you're a theologian, the scripture is primary and you're doing your exegesis on top of it. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I feel like the movement itself is the first language, and the other languages we add to it. If there's any hyperactive people in here, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Hyperactives arise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Onward and upward. Is there anything else? We have one more piece to offer you. Oh, I see a hand. Cool.
I really liked that at first it was a little chaotic, and then it was choreographed, and then in the end it was all symbolic and coming together in the center. I really appreciated that.
I appreciate that too. The individuality in the beginning into, something that felt more congruent. And then it all came together, and there was,
Everything was in the center.
yeah, it got more and more centered, period. Okay, so speaking of centered, we have a school that goes along with this adult collective, and they are super diligent to be in technique class weekly, year-round. But in the summers and in the winters, we have seasons where we come together for an intensive. We're here, like, not here personally, but here in this space, but we're in our studio for about 2 solid weeks, all day, every day, creating work that is a meditation from the upstairs exhibit. We do this year-round, but specifically this year, in Nature Studio, we started the Elemental Project, where we take the landscape of our lives and dissect it into air, earth, fire, ethereal, and water. And we have a piece that we've created from that work that we did this last month with our kids. And I've invited our senior this year, Michaela Link, to be a part of the adult version of this piece that we're going to offer that is from Earth, from the Elemental Project. So all of this will tie in again later on in the year. In June, actually, we'll bring all these pieces together. It'll be about over an hour show in June. So look forward to that. But this is just a teaser, a taste.
This bitter earth, well, what the fruit it bears. This bitter earth, my life is like the dust. Ooh, the glow of a rose. But what good am I? Heaven only knows. What good is love? That no one shares. And if my life is like the dust, that hides the glow of a rose,